Yeah.
Hi, this is Sue Greenwald with Awakened Stories. I'm here with Lydia Durham again. Hi, Lydia.
Hi.
And I'm also here with a good supporter of Lydia's, Corry. And he and Lydia are going to discuss some of the proof that Lydia has regarding her claims that she's Trump's illegitimate daughter and all sorts of other interesting things. Hey, Corry, do you want to start with us?
How's it going? Yeah, for sure.
Doing good.
Okay. So me and Lydia have become friends over the last year, and I'm really happy to see her story getting out on your show, on your channel that you have, and in a good positive way where there's multiple videos. She feels like she's got something to where if people check into her now, they can be like, go watch the videos.
Yeah.
Because I've heard a lot of her story as far as live chats, and for people to go back and listen to all those, it's probably not going to happen. And in one live chat, she would get 10 minutes that was really valuable, and then there's 3 hours there, and then over and over, and then over the long period, it's tough. But you guys have done a really good job at getting enough out there to where it paints at least her picture from a perspective where it's like, okay, I see what's going on here now. People can adjust it in 3 or 4 hours, and then decide if they want to take it further.
It's a really complicated story. It's not like you can go from A to Z in an hour, which is why we've done videos. It's very complex. And of course, Lydia has a lot of proofs, which I haven't asked for because that would take like 2 billion hours, I guess. So yeah. Glad to have you here today to kind of condense that for us a little bit.
Yeah, I'll do my best from my perspective, from like a journalistic perspective.
Okay.
Of not really trying to use my opinion at all, just showing what I've seen. Right. And then obviously I have my opinions, but I'm going to try to just, if Lydia wants me to say some of my opinions at the end for whatever reason, then that's great. But mostly today, I just want to prove the fact that for her to say I'm Trump's illegitimate daughter and I was trafficked and Michael Jackson is the father of my children, and this is why I think so, and this is a big problem and I want help. I feel like I've seen enough to where that's a validated claim. And so at the very least, everyone should be scrambling and jumping to help her. Just figure out what it is and make her feel like, okay, you've been screaming about this for a long time. Everyone here in this massive community hears you, and yeah, you're right. It should stop for you. And all we need to do is all put a light on it. You know what? Maybe some of the truths won't come out, but then she won't feel so cornered and isolated and made to feel like she's crazy, rather than like, yeah, your story's crazy, but you're a human being and welcome. You're doing a lot of effort, just like lots of other people.
Right.
And so that's kind of my point of coming on, is just to help people basically be like, you know what? Lydia Durham has a point, and yeah, we should help her, or at least not talk against her or make it harder on her.
Okay.
So I'll just get started. I kind of have, I guess, what you'd call like a presentation, a little bit of a backstory, and it's kind of tedious, but for people that don't want to, there's always people that won't sit through a whole video. They'll kind of listen for a second and maybe come back or not. I'm going to start with something right off the bat that will help your last videos and kind of put it easy to everyone. So I have a list here of channels and names. And basically, if you take this entire list and take all the information that they put out daily or weekly, and have since they've all become public, you have a pretty big narrative that for the most part 80% of it all is pushing the same
agenda.
There's a battle and evil, and there's an agenda, there's conspiracies, there's hidden truths, there's all this stuff, and in the end all these people claim and are pushing for people to wake up, do something about it, join together and save humanity one step or another, whether that's from a political or religious or a galactic or financial or whatever it is. They all have information they're putting out continually and followings that are all towards doing something good for humanity, and there's a happy ending. And so based on that, I've followed all these people and listened to their information and understand what they're trying to do and their backstories and all that. And so I think that this story pertains to them. And so I kind of want to just read the list. And so it's public, so that anyone that shows this video to anyone on this list, they hear their name on it and see the claims. So Lydia Durham claims to be Donald Trump's illegitimate daughter, which is, there's a long story to that, but that's the basic of it. And the truth of that's trying to come out. And I feel like that once that truth comes a little more fully out, it's going to be a thread. And once that thread's pulled, it's going to uncover a lot of the other stuff that people are wanting to know here and there. What's been going on and why hasn't this come out, or this happened. And in my opinion, since about July of last year, was because this story hasn't fully come out.
It hasn't.
And for someone like Lydia Durham to, if she's Trump's daughter and she's trying to be heard and it can't come out, why would a lot of these other things come out if there's any legitimacy to that? You know what I mean? I don't think we're going to wake up one day to something amazing if there's someone like Lydia Durham that can't get justice, or if Donald Trump can't even help his own daughter. There's still some things holding or the tension there. So I'll read, and basically Anonymous put out a video validating Lydia Durham. And everyone knows who that is, whether you think that it's a credible or non-credible. They've been around since in the 2000s, putting out tons of information that 10, 15, 20 years ago was harder to swallow. And now it's commonplace talk, even at dinner tables, to people that don't even go on YouTube. So Anonymous, everyone kind of knows who that is. They recently just put out a video when you guys started doing these interviews that basically said, she's Donald Trump's daughter. Donald Trump, you need to come forward. And she's done her part. Now it's time for you to do hers.
Right.
So just based on that and nothing else in this video, I think everyone that I read on this list, just based on that, should at least reach out to Lydia and do some investigative journalism. So the list is, and this is no order, it's just the list. So feel free, if you're watching this video, to use this list to know who to send a video to, if you're wondering who. So we'll just go. Stu Peters, This Is Reality, InfoWars, Alex Jones, X-22 Report, Freedom Force Battalion, Spiritually Raw, Usava, Journey to Truth, Prime Minister, True Reporting, Patriot Street Fighter, Russell J. Gold, Q the Storm Rider, Everyday Lives, West Coast Wizard, Corey Good, Ghost Ezra, David Wilcox, Jordan Sather, Negative 48, Patriot Dave, Tear It by Janine, David Nino, Mr. Trumptastic, UMan TV, Jason Q, Cab, Tom Numbers, 107, Charlie Ward, Simon Parks, Gene Decode, Morning Coffee with Rion, Michael Sala, Elena Danan, James Rink, Patriot News Network, Black Conservative Patriot, Everyday Lives, Red Pill 78, Space Shot, Jason Chirko, We the Media, anyone on We the Media, it's a big group, Laura Eisenhower, Dr. Kira Pure, Mel K, James Gillian, Santa Surfing, Turn the Page with Janine, Galactic Talk with Nicholas Finneman, Ann Vandersteel, Lynn Wood, Garrett Ziegler, Queen Ramona, United States Air Force Citizen Command, Liz Crokin, Leak Project, Marfugel TV, Monkey Works, Wrist Flex, Our Everyday Lives, Peter Maxwell, Jets and White, Project Veritas, Shadow of Ezra. And we'll throw in there all mainstream news, any other alternative media, because I know there's some others that I didn't mention, but that's a big enough of a list of people that put forth basically all their time putting out information on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, which is right up the alley with someone like Lydia Durham. They're bringing up conspiracy theories. Yep, go ahead.
Can you send me a picture of that list you've made, and I can put it on the end of this video for people that have a way in or would be interested in sharing with those channels?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah, I'll send it to you for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people that would be in the realm of receiving information like Lydia's from Telegram or Twitter that has anything to do with Trump and Q and all these different parts that are going on are familiar with these people. And these people have become trustworthy enough to where they all have big followings.
Right.
They've all put out you know, they speculate on what's going on. They give information that they're relevant basically, and they're claiming to help uncover the truth. And my point of it is it's way past the point of just regular people doing it.
Right.
And the way I want to kind of set that up with is if I go back a little bit to 2012, 13, 14, I started to I stumbled upon some stuff on the internet. And at first it kind of blew my mind as like, there's no way that's true. That just sounds so crazy. You know, some of these things like, you know, the David Wilcox and different things like this about space and galactic and, you know, hidden secret societies and this whole agenda of a new world order, these kind of things. It just seemed in some ways plausible, but basically impossible that could really even remotely be true. But based on the situation I was in, I had lots of time to just kind of listen to it background. I was driving on the road a lot. And I was also the type of person that found this stuff because I was researching a lot of other stuff. It was more religious, but I have a mind that can sit and listen to these things and be interested and find curiosity in them. So I was able to sit and do this. So after about a year, I couldn't really find any new conspiracy stories. I could find different ways to cover them and talk about them, but I couldn't find anything else. And by that time I was like, this is bigger than just someone putting out stories. Like this has a point to it. It's going against mainstream news and it's being called lies, but mainstream news is being called truth. They're hitting in the middle. So I'm like, this is bigger than me. Just you can't ignore it basically. And then what happened was some events started to take place where I lived, which was northern Alberta, and I was in the oil patch, that started to line up with some of the lies or conspiracies that were starting to come into my actual reality. So then basically I had what you call the awakening, a shock of like, this is no longer conspiracy for me, it's real. And you almost go through this process where you're like, you can see it so clearly and you're so shocked, you're running around just telling everyone like your house is on fire. Like, you don't understand, this is crazy. Like, and people just, obviously everyone understands, they don't want to hear it, they can't hear it. They didn't just listen to 500 hours of different things over time and connect all the dots. But then some stuff happened that affected me personally, where the industry I was working in got taken away, and it affected about 60,000 people in a place where there's only 3 million. And so the information I had and that everyone was calling a conspiracy actually came true, and it affected where I lived and thousands of people around me in a horrific way. So then not only did it become real, but the idea of people getting hurt or information not being taken seriously could hurt you became even more real. So it kind of opened my mind that anything's possible. And for another half a year, I stayed really into it. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, this is all real, but nothing's really being done about it other than the information's out there. And so rather than feeling that struggling, trying to get the story out, I just said, you know what? I know it's there. I'm going to have trust in God. And basically, Christian version of religion tells us that the world's going to be destroyed. And in the end, God will save us somehow. And we just have to basically, the good news is we can have faith in Christ and just, we'll get through it somehow. So I kind of gave up on the whole idea that anything would be done about it. I was just like, well, I'm going to take care of my family and let it happen. And then if you go to 2015, 16, when Donald Trump announced he was running, it piqued my interest when he did an interview on Alex Jones, because it kind of like brought back that, maybe this is the counter to nothing ever happening as far as everything going on. Yeah, how's it going? And so at that point, I got back into everything and started kind of just following it. And I was also in a position again where I could basically listen to 50, 60 hours of information a week because of my job. I just was in that position. So if I put on something for an hour and there was 1 minute of good information, I would get that, but that other 59 minutes, I'd be sitting there anyway.
Yeah.
And I have the mind that, and I'm already into this because I've seen it affect life. So I'm like, wow, this is like the second wave of this. And now what everyone's being forced to talk about things that I was trying to rectify or validate in my own reality. Now I'm going places and people are arguing about those same things without me bringing them up. So now I can validate them. That's when I really realized, for better or worse, there was something definitely behind the scenes that was a lot bigger than a small group of people.
Gotcha.
That was pushing out information that had weight, whether it was just to open your mind or whether it was get you to take action or whether it was to do something. It was real. And Donald Trump, after, by mid 2016, it was obvious that, people still speculate, is he bad or good or this or that? Well, regardless, the persona of Donald Trump is the good side, for better or worse, because if you go against that, you're left with the obvious stuff that you wouldn't agree with. You know what I mean? Forced vaccination or forced anything, or you have to be in the system. That's it. Right. If you agree with the system, that's fine. But if you don't agree with it, there should be a little bit of leeway, not just that's it, because any system can be changed at any time, whether it's good or bad. Everyone has a system in their own household, when they do laundry, when they wash dishes, how they raise their kids. Can you change that at any time? And is it bad or good? Yeah. So the world's the same. And once you're forced into one way of thinking, then it's obviously not the way you want to go. So Donald Trump's more of that side that you would pick. So you take all the information, you take Donald Trump running for president and all of that media attention of so aggressive against him, and then this massive uprising of all these new people that weren't there before when I listened to it the first time, but it's essentially the same message being looked into, the same conspiracy theories, but with more weight. And by 2017, the whole Pizzagate thing came out. And now the one really no one wanted to talk about was, again, being talked about on mainstream media. Whether it's a conspiracy or not, the idea of it was mainstream. Everyone was talking about it. Every channel was talking about it. New whistleblowers were coming out. And so at that point, I was all in. I was like, this is a real thing. It's hard to pick the details apart, but the main perspective was, this is going somewhere. This is the good side's push. This is what they're fighting against. And there's got to be something real about this. So I'm going to pay attention. So, this many names on this list that I read, and even more for about 1.5 to 2 years, a lot of them I watched start. 1,000 people, 3,000 people, 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And you watch all of this, and very early, because of maybe my past, I took myself out of it emotionally to the best of my possibility. Because I was like, you got, say, 60 people all talking about one or two subjects in a different way. Some are strictly political, some are financial, some are religious, some are all kinds of different ways. But at the end result of that, you kind of get the gist of everything. And then you would wait to see what the mainstream media would do. And then you would wait to see what the spokespeople for either side, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and then down, who's connected to them. What are they all saying? The mainstream saying, the alternative media, or whatever you're saying.
Right.
So this is the system that I use based on previous experience, because it validated enough to me that it was that there was no other way to go. Because you could ignore it, but how can you ignore it if you lose your job? And there's no reason you should lose it.
So we all have that,
and so
we have that period of cognitive dissonance, like, oh, that can't be true, and blah, blah, blah. But then more and more supporting evidence comes forward that says, well, maybe it's true. And then you're like, it is true. So you went through that, and it took a few years, but all of these channels came up to support what people were saying back then. Yeah.
And even the craziest thing to me is that there's no way that it's just completely just random. Like, to me, there has to be something bigger. I came across some information where it basically detailed a timeline, very detailed, and it's a long read, but it basically said that since the internet started, that there's been this layered way of getting to a certain point of disclosure, and that they've been doing it over time and building and building and building on it. And everything that, all the information that I ever cover, whether it's true or not, I just take the perspective that it gives you and then apply it to the greater. And, you know, when you look at the internet and you look how it came out, I remember when, you know, encyclopedia salesmen would knock on my parents' door. And so you're not gonna wake the world up that way. Right. It's impossible, you know, but through the internet and allowing, I could make 100 websites and do 100 different things because of the internet. And I don't have to go through anyone to do that. And if people value my information, it could spread. You know what I mean? So that you can use that to have people source information, and you can also easily, if you use military intelligence, and that's the way I look at everything, is the military intelligence, because then when Q came out, it was like, okay, this is they're targeting it now into one area. So you could say Q is just a civilian group that claims to be military, but it's gotten big enough the military knows about it. So in my opinion, if they haven't taken it over, if it wasn't military to begin with, it's big enough now. The military is like, wow, this is 50 million people in the world are making decisions daily off this information. And it's claiming to be military. So therefore it's military, because the military is watching it being like, wow, this could get dangerous if it wasn't military. Right. So, because I don't think they would let someone say we're a military operation and get that big to where you could literally make the financial and political waves to literally change the narrative in the world. Right. If they just were Q, but they do claim to be military. So I kind of thought to myself, yeah, you might as they're one and the same. And so, and it kind of focused everyone's attention. You know, you get 30, 40 different big channels covering every single Q post. And if you have the time to sit and listen to all those narratives week in and week out, then watch the mainstream news, not only talking about that stuff, but where they're going and what they're saying. And then you get into the, you know, it's 209 countries. They all have a government. They all have militaries. They all have 3-letter agencies. They all have economies. So there's lots you can look into to validate when there's a big narrative, what's actually happening. Because if that was true, they'd have to do this, they'd have to do that, they'd have to do this. And so it's kind of drawn out a little bit, but I just wanted to get it out there that my opinion comes from information that's put out at mass. And when you sit back and, well, I have one favorite channel, you get good information. But if you listen to everyone, you can really see that this is much bigger than who's right, who's wrong, who's good, who's bad. It's way too big to be able to make it that simple. Right. In my opinion, by this point, if someone's really, really, really bad, they're not going to be allowed to do too much away from the narrative where we're all going. If the narrative is bad in the end, then it's all controlled by bad, in my opinion. By that, you know, at one point it might have been 50-50, but this late in the game, I'm saying that most of it's for good.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that the world is upside down. Okay. Like, especially the past 2 years, but like previous to that, you'd look around and like our systems and the things that we assume that is the way things works. It doesn't even make sense. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. It was coming to a head. And then with the pandemic, boom. And that should have awakened people like crazy, which I think it did. But I feel like we're back in fat and happy status again. People are just kind of complacent and waiting around. And I don't like that. It's like people don't realize things aren't over yet. There's still a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. Yeah,
exactly. And that's
so let's point this over to Lydia's story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's where, for me, why I felt like I had to give that kind of background is that's exactly what you just said. After the 2020 election, basically going all of 2019 for me, I was like, wow, this has gotten really stagnant. Like, it's not really, all the information is kind of recycled now. There's obvious things that they know about that justice is either behind the scenes or it's not going to be public. Do you know what I mean? Like blatant things where it's like, hey, like they could easily they've probably dealt with that, but they're allowing it to not be dealt with publicly for whatever reason. Right. So once you get to that point, you're kind of like, regardless of what I do, there's stuff going on that just really is not going to matter what I do, other than in my own individual position and this and that. And so, and that's when you start getting into, that's a much bigger picture. So I was already feeling like the greater is just everyone sitting. And if it's military, that's what you're going to be doing. We want you guys to all be aware to this much so that we can do this.
Right.
Well, we're bored and we're frustrated. Oh, well, sorry. We're doing this now. We gave you all this information, so we'll decide when you get it next. That's how I look at it. And then you come across Lydia Durham, where she was already out there. And well, I'll say one thing. There was another individual I came across. I heard his story and it really affected me emotionally. There's lots of ones out there that do, but his specifically, and how it was played out, and the way it went down and who was involved and the evidence he had and what he was trying to do. And it really affected me a lot, to the point where I started sharing this stuff on Twitter. And I had a couple hundred people, but I'm like, whatever, I understand, quantum computers and how there's military intelligence and all that. So I'm like, everything I do, I'm going to make sure that there's a record of this guy being shared out there. He's trying to get his story out. And we ended up becoming friends. And his story involves a lot of high level people, where he's had emails where he's done certain things properly, and then it just stopped and there was no retribution. And so what that means is there's receipts for things, in a political level and, big corporation levels. There's Joe Flynn actually tweeted in November 2020 or 2019, or just after the election, tweeted, I have everything to validate him on Twitter. Garrett Ziegler's another guy that's validated him and vetted him publicly. So it's well known within those circles, and certain justice hasn't been carried out. And I came across Lydia Durham, who claims to be Trump's daughter. And after about 5 days of listening to her, I'm like, okay, well, this is out there, and probably he's going to be, why are you throwing this across my plate? Right. But I said, you should come and listen to this girl. She claims to be Trump's daughter. And I'm 100% positive he knows about her because of da-da-da-da-da-da. So if you come and get involved, this is another way of you guaranteeing that your information is collected in the data of all these people knowing who you are and what you're trying to do. And that's all I left it at. He jumped on the live chat and started talking, and they got involved, and he ended up doing about 5 interviews with Lydia. And throughout that process, just like before, I saw evidence of many, many individuals that knew what he was doing, already had dealt with him, and now they know he's interviewing Lydia Durham, Trump's daughter. And so at least at that point, 100% that a lot of these people are aware that there's a woman out there saying what Lydia's saying. Q is military and has put out all this information. And then you have Trump, and then you have Lydia. So when you think in terms of military intelligence and how data is collected, and how this whole, as far as I've been involved in it since 2012, 13, and how this whole process has been going, there's no way, if you look at everything on Lydia's page and you hear her story and then you take everything else in consideration, that anyone that could do something doesn't know who Lydia Durham is, what she's saying, why she's saying it. And because of this other individual that came in, I had proof that if they didn't know, they knew then. And I knew everything they knew about him. And so it connected everything for me to the point to where I felt pretty excited. I felt like not a lot of people know about this, but it's being pushed out there. Lydia's story, she's been pushed in a lot of ways to get this out. It's not like she's just trying to get it out. She's been forced in a lot of ways to put it out. And so when you connect both those people, you know that all these people know about this. So then you start paying attention to more. And after the last year, I've seen enough evidence that there's been situations consistently where Lydia's information and these people connect through coded or veiled comments, or they've even brought up her name in certain situations. And when you think of the list that I just gave you of all those names, this list, most of these people have had me comment and me put posts and post the interviews and post all kinds of information, and no one's responded or I've gotten banned. And the other individual involved with Lydia has had the same situation happen to him by a lot of people as well. So that's why I had to give all that background, because if you look at the overall situation I'm trying to explain, this is all known about, and there's something going on behind the scenes. And I think that if a lot of these people want truth and they want to, you know, the EBS or get to the bottom or some sort of end to all of this, to where we start feeling like, hey, it might take us 10 years, but we're all building back to what we thought life was 15, 20 years ago. Then why wouldn't they cover Lydia Durham's story? For one, she's asking for help. She's a human being. There's 100% no doubt in my mind that, for better or worse, she's been put up to this situation where she's trying to get the story out, thinking that it's helping in a way. She's being egged on. She knows through this other person that her information's been heard by all these people. And at the end of the day, even if she doesn't get validated publicly, could she at least be put in a position to where she has a little bit of feedback of like, you know what, we do hear you and we're aware, hold tight. Like one comment like that from somebody, or could the community of all these truthers come out and say, are you aware of a woman that's reaching out for help that says she's Lydia or Donald Trump's daughter? We don't know the story fully, but she's out there and blah, blah, blah. So the fact that that hasn't happened, and I've witnessed this for the last year, is, I mean, obviously it's troubling, but to me, there's more to the situation. Why wouldn't people at least cover it to expose it if it wasn't true? And at this point, why wouldn't some people bring it up? Because if you think about it, if Lydia Durham is Donald Trump's daughter, this truth has to come out. It's out there for a reason. And think about it. If Donald Trump, who everyone thinks he is and what he looks like to be, has a daughter that has to come out in this way, and he can't just help her, imagine what that actually means. And when you tie that into all Q and all the information and all the conspiracy theories and everything about it, doesn't that kind of connect? When you think of how bad it's gotten and how much lies there is and how corrupt it is and how controlled society is, wouldn't it make sense that someone like Donald Trump really could have a daughter that he literally couldn't save, and he would have to use back channels to try to get her story to come out, so eventually it would converge and expose a lot of other things? And so regardless of how that ends, I'm saying what I'm saying, and I've looked into it enough to at least say, couldn't all the people on that list that we read at the start at least reach out, at least cover bits and pieces of this story, and everyone can come together on this one point of, okay, this is a human being. Let's at least make her not feel isolated anymore and be like, you know what, this is bull crap that you've been put in a situation with Q and all these things to feel like this, and no one even will listen to you or validate you, yet all these people know about it. Number two, why not come together on the fact to see if it is true? There's enough evidence there to find that something's going on and that certain people don't want to talk about it. And there's also more people that have connected with her in the last year that I've seen. I'd say probably almost a dozen individuals that have come forward, got to know Lydia, got to know her story, expressed their story, told their stories, and gave their evidence of similar situations they're in right now. And they're fighting. So if Lydia's story was broke by all these people, it wouldn't just be bringing her situation out. It'd be bringing out about, I'd say, 8 or 9 different situations that are all basically the same types of groups or people that are suppressing them or hurting them. And it would uncover a massive amount of proof and who's involved. And in my opinion, like we've been stating since last year, would be a form of the EBS. Yes, there's a lot more hidden truths that that wouldn't come out because of that. But who knows about all this? Who can help and who can't help, and why? If we all focused on that right now, one, we would actually be helping people feel heard. And two, we would basically expose, there would be nowhere else to go, because all these people have their own bits of the story. They all tie back to the higher level people that all seem to be the ones leading this charge worldwide. And so I think at this point, it's a call to action to just say investigative journalists should look at the story. They don't even have to have an opinion on it. Get it out there. Anonymous came out with it. That should be enough to validate that it's at least something. And in my opinion, there's not going to be any other truth unless something like this can be validated from the other individuals that have aligned with Lydia. Right. Because if these people that I've seen, heard their stories and seen the proof they have, if they can't get helped, I don't think good things are going to happen for the rest of us yet. And so I think it's coming to a head to where this is going to come out. I think that the entire community should rally around it, and they don't need to just drop everything, but it needs to be a narrative now. And I think, you know what, in my opinion, I think Donald Trump, in the end, I think somehow he's behind this information coming out the way it did, and he needs help. But let's just say he doesn't need the help, then them allowing this to go on is basically publicly torturing Lydia and others to think that Q and all these great things are happening and all these people are coming awake into the truth, and then they're excited and they're bringing forth all their evidence, and then yet they get blocked and they get banned and they get censored. And the people that take Q to heart, or that the idea of Q, that find these victims, that find these people, that say, you know what, I'm gonna help. I've been awakened. And then they start to help, and then they instantly find out you're not allowed to talk about that. You can't help. You better not. No one wants to report on this. It's kind of like, okay, there may be good reasons for that, but these people are basically being tortured by this type of head that we're at. I'd say 2 years ago, there was enough going on continuously that it felt like we were moving forward. If you're following this, and it was easy to feel hope. It was easy to justify certain things. But at this point, I think that it needs to come forward. And I think whoever doesn't cover it, because Whiplash 347 on Telegram, whether people think it's a fraud channel or not, if you had the time, most people don't have the time to listen to this many narratives. I happen to, and so I have the luxury of seeing that whole picture. Well, Whiplash puts out a lot of information, and most of it's financial. And a lot of people talk about Nasera, Jacera, all this. Well, if that were to be more or less a reality and function worldwide, basically a whole new way of having an economy, there would have to be like a way to do that. And he puts out a lot of stuff on his channel that at least provides like an actual narrative of like, these countries are doing this. This could happen. This could happen. And there's a lot there. You have to read a lot of articles. You have to watch a lot of videos. You have to stay day in, day with it. And wow, they really did this. A year ago, it sounded pretty crazy. But now when you have this whole narrative with the BRICS nations and all these things going on, it sounds exactly what you wanted to hear last spring when he really started pushing it. So for Whiplash to come out when Lydia was at her lowest point, at the point Lydia was at, no one would have gave her 1 second. She was finished in that moment. She had her credibility more or less ruined. A bunch of her biggest supporters completely left her and started being mad. Within a few days of that, Whiplash came out of nowhere and posted, Lydia Durham, this is a test. The truth's going to shock you all, basically. That, for the amount of effort and time, I remember when Whiplash had 20,000, 30,000 people on Telegram. At this point, he's well over 200. For him to post something like that at that time, based on what he was doing financially, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars of influence from his credibility, and people saying, oh, this is scary, but we're going to trust him. It seems right. To put out something that crazy would serve him no benefit. It would only displace trust in a huge of what he'd built. So for me, in that moment, I shared that with Lydia, and I'm like, this is all real. Like, you gotta don't give up on yourself. And she felt the same. And Whiplash has continued to support her since then. He shared Lydia's petition, and a few days later, the anonymous video got put out. He's sharing the interviews that you guys have been doing. And, without really, we don't have to sit. Lydia doesn't have to say, or I don't have to say, or Lydia has a bunch of other friends too that know all this, that are her friends. She has a private chat page where it's like 6-7 people. And I don't talk a lot on it, but I've seen them. They're all just friends for like the last year. When people say that she's a fraud wouldn't make a private page with friends and do what every other Q follower or this whole movement follower, decoding, looking at information, passing it around, validating each other, consoling each other. Oh, I had a rough day. This being friends on there for a year, a fraud wouldn't do that. A fraud wouldn't open their life to friends and share knowledge freely. And we're going here. I'm thinking about getting Florida. What do you guys think? And 3 months later, she get, all this stuff.
Right.
So the fact that Whiplash has pushed this out there, if you understand the whole entire perspective, what Whiplash channel's proposing and how much influence it has, you think of the influence. The biggest influential statement financially ever made was the gold will destroy the Fed. Imagine how much money has been moved in the world because of that one statement and the speculation. That's massively massive. So you can't say that Q and all these things aren't relevant. And when you take someone that's an individual that thinks they're Trump's daughter from information they've been given through this Q thing consistently, and backed like someone with Whiplash, where there's probably 5 relevant people right now on the planet that have pull that really, really, really matters in the narrative right now. And he's one of them, and the people connected to him, and he's backing her, and no one's talking about her. Right. They're not even saying that's weird. So that all being said, that's my perspective from just all that stuff's public. Anyone can look at it. Anyone can see any of that stuff. And I'm not saying that it would be easy to do, but I guarantee you there's lots of military groups that have a dozen people that do what I've done for a hobby almost, that decipher everything that goes out, every single person that puts out information. And if it starts to swing the public opinion in any way, they're on. Who are they? What information are they putting out? Do we need to tell someone to give them some info because they're on the right track, or this and that? For a fact at this point, as politicized as everything is in the world, as things that anyone can find in their own lives with COVID and all that stuff, information right now is very important, and it is life or death in a lot of ways. So is the military involved in the information in the world right now? 100%. Are they involved in every media group on the planet right now? Yeah, it could be bad military, it could be good military, but they're all involved. They're all aware, I guarantee you, of Lydia Durham and everyone else I spoke on that list. And the only way that Lydia's story is going to come out a little bit more is that everyone covers it. And if anyone's thinking that they shouldn't, Anonymous put out a video. So there you go. Everyone knows who that is. So now you can cover it. It's supposed to be out there. It's not going away. And if you really want the truth, and if you really want EBS, and you really want to know what's going on, let's just focus on that. It involves Trump. Who cares if he's still the president or not, or if he's this or vaccines or this or that? Supposedly has a daughter that he can't save. Or let's find out that he's allowing a person to feel like it's his daughter and be tortured. One or the other is going to get us more forward than what's been going on.
Right. So basically, we're asking, this is a call for action video. We've got a list of channels. There may be more that's not out there. If everyone could share the video, comment on those channels. Hey, look into Lydia Durham, pass it around and make it go viral in some way, and get her at least someone that will ask for the information that she has and ask her for the proof that she has, so that, maybe she'll get eyeballs on her case and what she needs to have out there. I think that this is bigger than just, her story. Her story is very important.
Yeah.
Like I said, very complex, but I think that when the story comes out, there's so many facets of this story that are involved in various disclosure it's going to blow everyone's mind.
Well,
So-
for instance, I've listened to a lot, and the reason why I went through all that is because I've listened to so many people. Now, sometimes if you don't listen, you don't get an opinion. Well, I've listened to a lot of different people and just allowed it to be out there. And when Lydia has a live chat, or anyone happens to be Lydia, of 100, 150 people, and certain people that come to talk on it get threatened to speak on it, it's kind of telling. If I only knew a few people, it might not register. But when you've been watching this long enough and you see the bigger picture, it's kind of like, whoa, okay, like this. All I can say is Lydia Durham's, there's more to the story, like you said. And at this point, anyone that's not covering it is not really actually trying to figure out what's going on, in my opinion, at this point, because it is out there. It is known by enough people that this is the crossroads we're at.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of, Whiplash said this is a test. Maybe anyone that won't touch the story can't, because of who they knew, who it ties to, and they've waited too long and they're incriminated to some point. I don't know. It involves Trump. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. If it was so easy to come out and just prove that it was just straight fraud, I don't think they'd keep all this going as broad as it is, just because, oh, it's funny, look how stressed she is.
Right.
It wouldn't validate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but
we've had a lot of hate messages about this story, and basically, I've been talking to Lydia a lot. She has shown me proof. We've talked day to day, and here's what I'm going to say: the average person, if this was a lie or a fraud, a story she made up, she would have dropped this whole thing years ago, because the stress that she's gone through, the anxiety, the emotional anguish, and of course, all the stuff that's happened to her personally, her car, her car issues, the accidents, the fire on her car, and then her children being taken away. No one would go through that and just like make up a story like this.
no.
And of course, the story is so fantastic. I don't think the average person could make up all these details. You know what I mean?
No.
And
Well,
persist with it for so long and be attacked
well,
when you try to bring the truth out.
well, especially when you know of other people that have had the similar things happen to them.
Yeah.
You already know that can happen and is happening. So it's kind of like she would just go away.
Right.
But if you can't, and you feel like the only thing you can do is go public to get eyes on it, which many whistleblowers do. They're like, you know what? Like this video right here, it presents an opportunity for people publicly and on the record to at least, you can't not be aware of it at this point.
Right.
And people can share it now and be like, hey, I heard your channel name in a video. Have you heard of this person?
Yeah.
Well, in 2 or 3 months, if more comes out, then you go back to the list. Who knew? Why didn't they cover it? So it's like, that's why whistleblowers come out. If I get certain information out and then further down the road, it's going to connect people on, maybe I'll get help, where if they just sit back, nothing's going to change in their lives. And they're being attacked in different ways that they can't articulate.
Right.
And if they try to, it just seems too crazy. Like, you know what I mean? So what do? What did Lydia do? She documents everything. If you go on her page from the top to the very bottom, you see a timeline of like, oh, she posted this and these people posted this. Then she did this live chat. Then this happened. Then this happened. Then this news story happened. Then she said this and this. And then they posted this. It's like, hey, like,
Right.
any person would feel insane if that was happening to him.
Totally.
I've been doing this for how long? No one's ever, like, a few people comment back. They don't like code me and let me know I'm listening and like involve themselves in my life in a way that you can tell, right? So, I mean, how many people are trying to interact with all these different people and channels every day but yet consistently you get interacted with in a way that everyone's decoding and you're specifically proving it on your page.
Right.
So it takes a lot of strength and due diligence to be like, you know what, I'm going to at least do this. So people should take that into consideration and at least do a plug. You know what? Jump over on Lydia Durham's channel. She claims to be Trump's daughter. She's, she claims she needs help. Check it out. How hard is it to do that?
Right. Well, we were joking the other day. If Lydia had bashed Trump and said how much she hated him and blah, 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 she would have gotten so much traction on this story years ago. She's not doing that. She's not, she doesn't have that political agenda. You know what I mean? She just really wants justice for her and her family and maybe some explanations. Yeah.
Yeah. If this was a situation that could hurt Trump, the media would already been using it. Yeah. That's what's interesting about it is that it's not. There's a huge organized effort for her to end up where she's at now. Totally. And it can be proven and it's validated by, Whiplash validated and continues to. Bob Joyce's Elvis is a channel that like 50,000 people follow where all they do is post content about celebrities that are still alive. And they posted her on there. So it's like, whether you think that's validation or not, why would Lydia not think she's being validated? If these channels come out of nowhere and validate her, she has every right to be like, okay, well, if I'm somewhat validated, like, can this stop? Can something end? Can law enforcement just come like, you know what, we're going to investigate this if you're being followed and all that? You know what I mean? That's all a person's really looking for. And when that doesn't come and you're as public as you are, at least behind the scenes, that's going to be confusing for any human being. And if we're all about the truth, these 100 or so top channels that literally put out information on the daily in detail that does have weight in the world and has manipulated opinions and certain people getting voted in and all these things, then at some point you would think that they would be able to help this person. You know what I mean? If this is what we're all about. And I mean, where she's staying at now with King John Smarty, that's someone that throughout all of this, I listened to everyone that I started being like, you know what, this guy is as intense as it sounds at first. When you really listen to him, you're like, hey, why not? This fits in a lot of ways. And you know what, Lydia, you should reach out to this guy. And a week and a half later, after she texts him, she's riding in his car around, getting ice cream and hanging out. Now she's living with him. So in my opinion, that proves that out of this entire list, that one person, at least two people, Whiplash and King John Smarty, are real and care about human beings. So regardless of you believe everything they're saying, they're not frauds when it comes to helping people and making them feel loved and supported and being like, you know what, I can't do everything, but I got your back.
Yeah, he's legit.
And if if everyone with all these different opinions took that one line, then we wouldn't be as stressed out as we are. We'd still be confused and maybe, but we'd at least feel like progress, because we'd be like, you know what, at the end of the day, we're going to help each other no matter what. If you're a human and you're a whistleblower and you're a part of this, you're going to get support and love. So they did that.
Yeah. I saw a quote last week, which I'm going to screw up, but it said, the person is saying this, I'm only one person, said 7 billion people. So if everybody thinks, well, I'm just one person, nothing will get done. But look at, if each one of us put a comment on these channels, shared the video, did this, just took, a little bit of time here and there, it's going to get traction that way. It's a small thing to do to help
exactly
someone. Yeah. And even to, look at,
and that's my own.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say my only opinion is on that. Is the only reason I felt like to come on here and say this is that there's enough there to at least treat her like a human. Don't call her out. Don't call her names. I mean, anyone, we shouldn't be doing that. But like, if someone's asking for help consistently and there's this massive movement of all these truthers and this in-depth research, should at least not belittle people. Just give them a little bit of a platform to say, hey, she's got every right to feel like she feels, and, you know, help her out if you can.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and that,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and that, you know, the individual, I'll say his name once, Neil, he did come back out and validated, you know, that she has every right to feel the way she does. And there's more to all that. But at the end of the day, to help her out if you can. In her situation, it's obviously a crazy, weird situation. So if anyone wants to do something and feel like that they're making a difference, donating $5 or $10 is making a huge difference. You can't uncover the truth of the story or whatnot, but when you support someone that feels isolated and then they feel supported, then they feel like they're winning. Right. Then they feel like they can attack their attackers in a you know, every day, feeling good about themselves, because they're like, you know what, at least people are hearing me and being like, I can't do much, but I do support you in this little way, versus let's just pour millions and millions and millions into uncovering election fraud when we already know there's election fraud. Like they presented it in a way. Trump talked about it for like a year and a half in every rally, and then it happened. So it's like, why are we donating? They obviously know about it. And if we're donating all this money and they know about it, that's not going to change it. They should be doing the right thing without donations. True. You know, Lynn Wood raised $16 million for that one guy that then ended up calling him out, the shooter guy. I can't even remember his name right now. But that was obviously kind of a fake situation from the start. And he got 16 million. So you can't tell me someone like Lydia couldn't get 16,000 just cause like she's a human and she's crying out. If that guy got that much, and no one really, you know, Linwood's been a lawyer for that long, and he didn't know it till the end that he shouldn't have done that. And I'm not doing it to call out, but I'm just saying the perspective's there. Like, there definitely should be more benefit of the doubt for certain individuals as a collective by this point. Right. You know,
this is a big story. And I'm talking big, like BIG, because when all these pieces of what Lydia's talked about are blown open, like I said, it is going to be mind blowing and shocking to the people.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first,
waiting. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I first heard the narrative of Michael Jackson's still alive and he's coming out. Even I was like, that's crazy. And to me, I was like, not really relevant. Like, I hope he's alive and I hope he comes out. But hearing it 2 or 3 years ago, it's like, you know, oh, sorry. You know, why is that relevant if Michael Jackson comes out when you think of the scope of everything? Like, yeah, maybe he has some evidence or this or that, but then you hear it more and now it's millions and millions of people they know it's true. They talk about it on multiple channels. It's covered more than when he was even alive at this point, and others. Well, think in your mind, how is he going to come out? Just one day he's going to come out like, hey guys, I'm finally out now. No, it's going to come out in a way that's more organic because he had to go away in a more organic way. He didn't do it for fun. It was like, you know what I mean? Or anyone else that did it or didn't do it. So in my opinion, when someone comes out like Lydia, says I'm Trump's daughter and Michael Jackson, to me, that makes sense that would be how it would come out. Right. If he comes out eventually because the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger, then all of a sudden that thread is pulled. You know what? I have a bunch of other friends that had to do it too. And then it comes out organic. It actually had a reason and it has an end. So everyone should push for this story to be validated, very least make Lydia feel like she's not isolated, that she's part of the group. You know, there's a couple others, you know, Q911, -48. That's a huge thing there. They put some of her posts on there to validate her in a certain way. So I'm just saying it is there for people not to ignore it. Okay. So that's my 2 cents.
So for those that are viewing the video again, we're asking you to share this around and or comment on all the channels that you can, asking for an investigation into Lydia Durham, and just make the comments, make them daily, get it out there until they're so annoyed they finally say, okay. Somebody says, okay, somebody needs to take a step. right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it is relevant. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
dealing with Trump. Like, wouldn't it be great for Trump to just come forward, because that's bringing him into that arena of Q and all this, you know what I mean? Everyone sees the little like Q things, like there's enough there. And that's why I brought up all that stuff at the first. There's enough here that if you do this, you can't be like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, you know what I mean? So it's all there for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
and if I could add too, like Trump the other day, it was all over the news that Trump had retruth, on his Truth Social, okay, Q post 11, and that he was, truthing a lot of Q material, and supporting, QAnon and this and that. They were saying, right? So now, if I'm actually, my information is coded all over the Q drops, which I forgot to put one in that video. Anyway, I'm going to make another video too.
Should make one just of the Q ones.
Yeah, I'm going to do another one. But I have another one that she's going to attach to that. But I forgot to put one of the most important ones in, which is when I said to him on Twitter, when he had the @real Donald Trump Twitter, and I said, why don't you acknowledge, which was the keyword, acknowledge your unknown daughter, okay, which come to find out I'm not so unknown. They know. But anyway, I had to sneak that in there. But anyway, and I said, doesn't my life matter? And his very next tweet was Daughters of the Heartland. But then that was in like June of 2020, I think it was. And then July 19th, my birthday, Q puts acknowledged, God bless America.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's just one of the many.
Exactly.
I'll send her that too, so she can put that up there. But so, but besides that, there's so many other things that had happened, or codes, or it leads you right to my information. In fact, why don't somebody ask which Durham Q is talking about when it doesn't say John Durham, but it says Durham? I'm just throwing that out there. But since he actually, truth, the Q thing, that's important to everybody anyway, because of the simple fact that everybody has been living and basing their life off the Q, drops, what was going on. And it's like people are having it used against them. You have people saying in court over custody battles, this person supports Q, they're out of their mind. They're using it as leverage. If this doesn't come out, how many lives has been ruined because they're allowing it to be called a conspiracy and label people as crazy, as cult or whatever else. So bottom line is it still has to come out. That's number one. Number two, no fraud in their right mind is going to ask and go directly to the people's names they're using, or whoever they're making their fraud against, whatever, and ask for an investigation into themselves and their situation, why it's happened. And all I'm asking for is people to do that. Demand an investigation into this. Right. Something's going on. It could happen to anybody and their children. Why wait till it happens to you and yours? Do something. Believe me, it's not nice. That's number two. And number three, not for nothing. So I was told I was adopted, the whole adopted thing. We all know about that. So it's like any adopted person in their right mind always wonders, like, man, did they want me? They didn't want me. Like, nobody wanted me. They got rid of me. Everybody goes through this emotions, right? Yeah. Here I am being taunted with this on a daily basis, taunted in Q drops, people walking up to me on streets, whatever the case may be, I'm being taunted, okay, to only beg for help and then be reminded you're rejected and thrown away again. It's just not right. It's just not right. And my children, the whole thing has been ripped apart. And we know for a fact that there's people that know this and nothing's being done about it. And I'm sitting here asking for an investigation, asking for help. I have no clue what else to do. All right. Because it's been proven many times. How many people have tried to fight the system for themselves or their own situation? And it's like, no matter how much money you spend, you're still in a losing battle because it's all controlled. So, I'm just trying to ask for the right thing to be done for me and my children, being brought in, being brought into this conspiracy or whatever the heck is going on by an investigation or certain people to stand up and say something. And many just, they're just not. But here's the thing too, and Corry could back me up. There is an individual, I'm not going to name the person. See, certain stuff, like I said, is for, it's for the court systems. It's for a different system to bring out. So certain names I leave out of this or whatever, but there is an individual that, Corry has even seen the evidence himself that the people that matter in this situation, like the people that can do something and should be doing something and are actually liable to do something, have my information and know exactly who I am.
Exactly. So then that goes back to everything I was saying about the information being put out there for a specific reason. It's a massive level. The whole world's going through all these changes. And when you tie in to Lydia and others and her story and the situation, there's not room for plausible deniability, and you're led in every way to feel like this has to be pushed out. Like there's a real thing behind it. Right. And so if people around her are seeing this and being drawn into it because this has been going on for so long, and you've repeatedly look at COVID, that drugged everybody in. You know what I mean? Almost every government in the world aligned and did the same thing over something that, especially now, most people now that thought that people that were totally against it were kind of out to lunch are now just, that's their normal day. Yeah, this is all bullcrap. I don't believe in none of it. This is totally stupid. And the media has more or less allowed that to be okay now. So it's like there is method to all this madness enough to be, if you're in Lydia's situation, yes, you're going to feel like this is crazy because it's not in the 90s and you just feel this and you're just an isolated person. Like it's tied into this whole entire narrative, and the people that are being idolized and decoded and listened to and talked about on a daily basis know about her but won't say. This narrative continuing to go on. Any person feel insane. People are feeling insane anyway. But when you're, how are you supposed to be like, here's 3 million people saying, trust General Flynn, trust Linwood. Like, I know this, but then yet you're a Lydia Durham and these people know what you're saying and doing, but yet nothing's happening.
Right.
When week turns into month and month turns into month, you're going to feel like, I just want this to end. Right. And then 2 minutes later, one of them tweets, the ending is near. And it keeps going and going and going from all these different angles. And 10 years ago, that'd be like, that's weird, but that's our life now. Everything's even if you're not even aware of Q, everything's like a double meaning or a double speak or this, or should I have done this, or this doesn't make sense. Like, you know what I mean? We're all in that a little bit, but we're not all supposedly Trump's daughter, which Trump's at the center. She's, you know what I mean? So she's right there. So you think that would be really simple to shut it down, and it hasn't been shut down. Someone like Whiplash is posting it. He says all the time, his boss is JFK Jr. He talks to him all the time. Who do you think told him, quote unquote, that Lydia Durham is legit and to keep putting this out on his page? Now, whether you believe that or not, that is what's assumed by that channel existing, by that information existing. So if you're Lydia, would you not feel like, why me? Why am I the test? Why am I supposedly Trump's daughter? Why have I been dragged into this when everyone believes it, but I'm specifically being, put on the spot every day of my life? You can't walk away from it, because it just pushes you back. So that's why the only thing we'll have to do is get this one way or another to the end, rally tomorrow.
Right.
Everyone that there's people at that know for sure these interviews are happening. So that's kind of weird. you know, why can you make a statement? By the way, you know, Lydia Durham out there, I'm not your dad. We'll look into it. Why not? They do other things like that. He's probably going to do one of these, you know?
Yeah.
So, but,
Right.
yeah, I mean, and how's it not interesting for all these people that like to constantly speculate at every little nook and cranny of every little thing? Is the moon real? Is it fake? Is this? Is that? Is the earth flat or round? And on and on and on. Why not speculate at a story that's been going on this long that it may not be true? And it's not that complicated. If every one of those channels covered it for the next 2 weeks, I guarantee something would have to be said.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone would be like, yeah, we want to know. This is crazy.
So to the viewer, if you will help us get that out there, Lydia will show all the proof that she has in an organized fashion. Like, we don't have the time to do all that here. So at the end of this video, we're going to put something that she's put together that will give more information. And then Corry, if you'll send me your list, I'll add that on as well, so people can systematically go through and comment on every one of those channels and share the video around.
Yeah, and this is something collectively we can all do to further what we all want, which is some sort of end to all this.
Right, exactly.
Which we're being led to believe there is.
Is there anything else you want to say before we close, either one of you?
I think I've said enough. Just, you know, thank you to everyone that does put out information. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes, you know, like, yeah, just anyone that's out there trying to do anything. Thank you. And just, you know, honestly, at the end of the day, as far as the truth, there's obviously something driving this whole thing. So it is going somewhere. So let's just drop on the speculation at this point and just start helping each other out. Like, it's obviously towards the end, you know what I mean? So whether you're who's right or bad or wrong, if you're going to support humanity and support each other, let's just switch the narrative over and watch what happens this last few months, because it feels like there's not many more ways for this to go till something happens, bad or good.
How about you, Lydia? Anything else you'd like to say?
Yes, I would just like to say, you know, if people don't even have to say they do believe it, they don't believe it, or whatever the case may be, you know, they just have to say that, hey, you know, there's been a girl out here that's claiming she's Trump's daughter, you know, and claiming that her and her children have been terrorized. You know, we would like to get down to the bottom of this. You know, they could just say, Donald Trump, we would like to know, is this really your daughter, or somebody using your name in a conspiracy to make her think so? Is, you know, something's going on here. You know, just ask the question, you know, just ask the question, because to tell you the truth, if we want the answers, it's got to come from the source of the answers anyway. Well, I'm sitting here and speaking to Donald Trump. I'm sitting here and speaking to certain individuals, you know what I mean? So I'm just looking for an answer, some sort of, you know what I mean? Some sort of that me and my children's lives matter.
Right.
You know, everybody's supposed to matter. And honestly, when you're speaking out like this and you're doing things like this, and you're every day, it's hard for you to wake up. Every day you open your eyes and you're like, oh God, not again. You know, because it's like, you know, you're like, God, I mean, I don't even feel like I belong here. Like, I mean, am I wanted here? Like, what is the problem? You know, and then you have to watch other people. You know, you go out and you're happy for them, you know, they have their families, or people meeting up with their parents, or they have their kids and they're doing this, and here's you, you know, and it's like, you're only asking for help and answers. And, you know, it's like, you know, like, in other words, it's like, oh, go away, you know, and I mean, people have no clue what that does to somebody's inner person. They really don't. They have no clue how, you know, you'll just lay there and be like, you know, is it worth waking up? You know, I mean, is anybody even going to care that this happened to me? Like, is this okay? Honestly, is it okay with the world and with my parents? Is it okay with Michael? Is it okay with the government? Is it okay with the officials that know about it? Like, is this okay that my car got set on fire? Is it okay that my children were trafficked? Is it okay that I'm being stalked and targeted? Is it okay that somebody is trying to mentally make me break and kill myself? Is it okay that I lost years with my children? Is all the abuse and terrorism that's been waged, which is way worse than I just said and way more than I just said, okay, that'll come out later. You know what I mean? But is it okay that all of this has happened to me? Is it okay that nobody will even stand and do what's right? Is it okay for my parents to completely ignore it? Is it okay for me to have to be the one that goes against the grain to put this kind of a story out there as I'm sitting watched, ignored by the ones who have all the resources and all the evidence and all the whatever and all, you know, all the influence and power to actually, you know, stop the abuse and terrorism and correct it and help me and my children live our lives? Like,
Right.
is it okay for them to sit and watch? Why is it me that has to be doing this with no resources and struggling and hurting every day, mentally, emotionally, you know, financially, just in every possible form that a human could be hurting? Why is it okay for them who could, you know, change somebody's life by adding to it to just sit back and do nothing?
Right.
Why is that okay? I'm just asking for people to care, you know, because guess what? It's like, that's what we need to all be doing for each other, because that's how abusers will not get away with this anymore. They won't get away with it if good people care and do something. But I mean, you know, how hard is it to say, hey, Donald Trump, is this girl really your daughter, or is somebody out there making her think so? Something's going on here. We would like to know. You know, there's a girl, you might want to check out her page and why she thinks like that. It is kind of interesting. You know, could we get some feedback on it? What's so hard about just putting it out there? People, if I was a fraud, if I was a fraud, I wouldn't want Trump to know. I wouldn't want him to come and answer the question. I'm telling you guys to go get it from him. Go get it from the source, because I want it from the source. I'm asking people to go get it from the source. That must mean there's something going on here. So, you know, no fraud is going to say, well, you know what, go directly to the source. They're going to try to cover their tracks. I'm not covering anything. Please, anybody out there, the regular news stations, my packages have been mailed there. You know, I mentioned in the, well, that was in the anonymous video. That was a clip that I've done, like, that I posted a while ago, like about the admittance and stuff. So they must have took that and added it in, you know what I mean? But in the anonymous video, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? What they took of me from a clip from a while ago, you know, but what I was asking for in that clip was the admittance. You know, I'm going straight to the source, people. Straight to the source, like straight there. I'm not hiding anything. Hey, Donald Trump, you know, acknowledge what's going on here. I have 3 kids that really can use some help here. We've been targeted. We've been tortured. We've been, you know, they attempted murder and all this other stuff going on. Stalked. You know, I'm tired of seeing the you know, when I go outside, I'm being followed. You know, when this happens to you, believe me, you'll know when you're being followed. How many victims came forth and said, I'm being followed and this and that, and then they wound up dead because nobody listened to them? Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. You just think that. You don't know what you're talking about. They're dead. Oh, this person was being followed, you know. Yeah, they were. You know when you're being followed, people.
Right.
And especially when they want to taunt you with it.
Right.
When you're like, well, this person ain't going to figure out where it's coming from because we have money invested in this. You know, they're going to notice it, though. That's the fun part. They're going to notice it and they're going to know somebody's doing it, but they don't know who or where it's coming from. Think of what that does to somebody's mind. Think of the fear you have to live in every day. And think about how much more observant you'll become, because you know, like, whoa, something's going on. Who the hell is doing this? You know, and you're telling me that nobody could even say, hey, Donald Trump, the mainstream media, nobody could say, hey, Donald Trump, who is this girl, Lydia Durham, saying she's your daughter? Right. Is she made to think that? Or, hey, who's making her think that if she's not? Which I'm just playing the devil's advocate with that one.
Well, so bottom line is we just need to get this out to the right people that will take action. Bottom line.
Ask the question.
Share it around, get to the right channels.
Right.
Yeah.
They do not have to say they believe it. They don't have to say they don't believe it. They don't have to say we're in total support. They don't have to they could just say, you know what, we have an issue that we want to get to rest.
Right.
There's a lady out here claiming blase, yada, yada. Is she made to believe this? Is she a fraud? Or is she really your daughter, Donald Trump? You're the only one that could come out and answer. She's willing to do a DNA test, by the way, Tim. She's willing to give her DNA to get this resolved. And she's looking for an investigation. She's looking for help for her and her children.
Right.
What can we, is there any way you can reach out and help her? Or what would you want to do with this girl? What do you want to do about this? Because your name keeps coming up.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't have to support me. Just ask them the question, please.
But if you would like to help support Lydia, her Cash App link is below, and that will go to defray her living expenses. So anything you can do there is also appreciated. But again, sharing and making the comments, I think, is really what we're after. But we just want to support Lydia and get justice out there. And once that happens, it will happen for other people that have a dramatic story, probably not with all the details that you have, but yeah.
Right. And every story is important. Every person speaking out is important. Every family is important. Every life is important, regardless if the story is this big or that big. It doesn't matter. It's all important. But, it's like starting a snowball effect to get to get those victims' voices heard, to get people heard, and Donald Trump, I'm here trying to start the snowball effect. And you could be the very man that you say you are. And I want to believe you are. I want to believe that you could be the very man that helps us get that snowball rolling. You could be the very man that helps a lot of women and men that are being victimized by targeted individuals or whatever else system, CPS system and everything else, have their voices heard. You can do that, and you could start it by helping your own daughter and your own grandchildren. You could start it by helping me and my children. And that in return will snowball to other people. And that's all we're asking you to do. We need something, though. We need something.
Okay.
I don't, however you want to do, we need something. But I mean, I just know that I cannot continue to wake up every day with this and it's going nowhere. And like Corry said, Corry has seen, there's proof and there is evidence, undisputable evidence of what I am saying, and that a certain group of people that should be responsible, they're mandated to say something about this abuse. They're mandated to look into this. They have it. They have it behind the scenes. I'm not going to I have a list of the names, and that's a different list from what Corry had showed today.
Okay.
So I'm just asking, please.
Yeah. We're just asking for help. Share the video around, make the comments. If you can donate, appreciate anything that you can do for us.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, both Lydia and Corry, for your time.
Thank you, Corry.
Thank you,
I
Sue.
appreciate you spending the time and trying to assist. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go over a couple of codes and reasons why I have come to the conclusion that much of my information is being coded throughout this movement. Okay, so right now we are going to look at show support for General Flynn. Text Flynn to 401-329-2007. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the flag in the background, Flynn's picture right there, but we're going to look at that 401-329-2007. Now, if you mirror 401, that would be 104, correct? Okay. The reason I have 104 Wells Drive, South Plainfield, Middlesex County, New Jersey, is because that is where I grew up. I grew up at 104 Wells Drive, South Plainfield, New Jersey, with, as I was told I was adopted, my mother, Lois Ann Haupt. Okay? So that brings me to the next part, which we're going to go over. So we got the 401 104 mirror. Now we're going to look at the 329. We're going to look at that 329 right there. So we have the address for the 401. It's a mirror 104. 329. 329 is what? March 29th. March is the third month, 29th day. So what day was Lois Ann born? March 29th. So, so far in this number, we have 401 Mira 104, like as in Wells Drive, the address. I lived while I was with her when I grew up. And we have 329, which is her birthday, March 29th. Okay, let's go to 2007. 2007, if you drop the zeros in Gematria, you have February 7th. February 7th is the supposed death day where she supposedly had a heart attack. So we have February 7th. So we have 104 Wells Drive, March 29th, and February 7th. So if we go back to this number right here, we have 401, mirror that, 104, that's the address, 329, the birthday, 2007, the death day, the whole thing, Lois Ann Haupt. H-A-U, P as in Peter, T as in Thomas. We're going to be moving on. Okay, let me find, I'm sorry, some of my stuff is out of order here. So I'm just, give me a second. We're going to go to the Q drop. We're going to go to the Q drop. Okay, July 20th, which is George Haupt's birthday, who she was married to. So he lived at 104 Wells Drive too, with us. Okay, so, but July 19th is my birthday, okay? And July 19th, we have the American flag with Flynn, and we have Flynn uploads his header, 7/19, July 19th, in highlighted in the Q drop. So you could actually link that poster, my address, that I grew up with Lois Ann Haupt, Lois Ann Haupt's all her information, to to her husband's birthday of July 20th of George Haupt, to my birthday, July 19th, with Flynn. These are some of the basic connections. But we're going to go, like as I told you, the heart attacks can be deadly. Heart attacks, okay? So we remember that Lois Ann has a death day from a heart attack on February 7th, right there. So now that we've done that, let's go back to the Q drop. She supposedly died of a heart attack, and we're going to go to the Q drop, February 7th, which is her death day, right? I couldn't fit the whole Q drop in here, but it's, what is that, post 677, so you could check yourself for verification. But let's go to the end of it. February 7th, and what does it say right there? Heart attacks can be deadly. You think that's another coincidence? Just saying. So let's see, that's one of the many codes. I'm going to go to another one. I'm just giving you a couple of quick examples to help you understand. Oh, here's a picture, by the way, of 104 Wells Drive, South Plainfield, New Jersey. Everything that I'm saying, you can verify and check yourself. It's all there. Okay, now let's go to this. I'm going to show you a picture. See this car? This was my friend's son's car, who I was driving, and it's funny because she asked me to bring her medication because her heart was bothering her. You know, like heart attacks, heart. Okay, but anyway. Okay, so I'm driving this car and somebody runs a red light right into me. Okay? This was the car I was in when they ran the light into me. So, let me show you why we're going to this. This picture right here, keep that picture of the car in mind, by the way. The name is Jim Norris. I have reported that the name is Jim Norris for the last 4 to 5 years. I am telling you that this is Jeffrey Epstein. If you don't think they could disguise themselves, they definitely can. If you think that they can't play around and make themselves look different, they definitely can. I'm going to come back to this for probably the last code. but I need to say this for the accident. So I've been reporting the name as Jim Norris for a while now. And in fact, let me see something. I know I have it because he was running a Ponzi scheme called the Seed Program. And just to prove to you, I've had him in court. Lydia Durham against James Norris. James and Jim are the same name. And we'll go back to that as well. So that's that. That gets extremely deep as well, but we're going to move on for a minute because I just must show you something. Okay, so we are going back to this, the car accident. Okay, do you guys think it's a coincidence that I've had this person in court, okay, and I've reported on him before for the last couple of years that he is Jim Norris. I have evidence that I have reported this to the FBI and many others. Nothing happened. You know, they are doing something about his little Ponzi scheme he was running, but let's go to this. So I have a car that runs into me, and I find it extremely strange that when I get the police report, the last name of the owner of the car is Norris. Same initials though, JN, like James or Jim Norris. Norris. Address 71st East 5th Street, correct? So, as you can see, Safeway Insurance, this is the car accident report when they ran the light and hit me. Okay? What do you think the odds are of the name being Norris, people? Okay, let's move on though. So, we got Norris, 71st. There's my name, just to prove to you, you know, what's going on, blase, yada, yada. But we're going to go on. So, I told you that the name was Jim or James Norris. It's the same, right? We got Norris, we got 71. Okay. But let's go on to this. The witness's name is James. So together we have in the car accident report of a car that came full speed through a red light to run into the very car I was in. We could get James Norris. The name is Jim Norris. Okay. So do you think I can make that up? Let's move on though. What is the house? Epstein's House of Horrors in Manhattan. You could check it up yourself. The address was 71st Street. So we have the 71. Now, we all know about, you know, the Kennedys and, you know, Trump and the Kennedys and this and that in this Q movement. Kennedy's like real big and blah, blah, blah. Why was the officer's name Kennedy? Another non-coincidence, huh? I'm just saying, you know, this is what they do. This is what they do. So, this was the result of it. The result of it. Okay, we're going to move on to one more quick code. This is only a few people out of the... There's so many, there's no way I could do it. It's just, it's unbelievable. But we're going to move on. So we're going to move on to this right here. So we had CPS, which I have a bunch of stuff from too, but we're not even going to get into the whole thing of that. We have, you know, my children. We have Anna Marie on the right. Well, my right. Which now calls herself, or renamed herself to Florida Rose. And we have my son, Clifford Kennedy. Clifford Kennedy. Now, okay, CPS decided to come in and traffic my children. Now, let me show you, people. They thought that this home, with this man in the home at the time, which has the same name as him, as you can see, Clifford Kennedy, okay, was a better home than mine. Does this make sense to you? Number one, aggravated child abuse. He was convicted. But he was convicted 11/10 back before they took my children. So this was a couple of years back. Okay, so we have Clifford Kennedy, right? I want to show you something though, how disgusting these people are. Okay, so What do you think the chances are of having Clifford the Big Red Dog in theaters November 10th? Where'd you hear that, November 10th? November 10th, people. Clifford, November 10th. Okay? Some more things that revolve around me and my children that, you know, I'm sure they're just coincidences, right? No. Just to prove to you, Clifford Kennedy, date of birth, 3/18, Cumberland County. That was from the CPS papers. Yes, that is my son. So, there's a lot more posts I can go over. I mean, but I'm not going to do that right now. I think this is just basic enough to give you an idea of why I think the way I do, why I do what I do, why I say what I say, and why I'm demanding an investigation into who is behind all of this. Good, bad, or indifferent. I know both parties are involved, but also there's supposed to be a party involved for protecting myself and my children. There's supposed to be a party involved in doing the right thing and having this investigation that I'm asking for. People, this is only a very, very, very tiny portion of what is being done and what is being shown. Enough is truly enough. We fight for these. We fight for the right thing to be done. We fight for justice. Don't forget, this is about the children. Not only that, if we do not protect the very adults, the very people who protect these children and who care for children, if they are being wiped out by terrorism, financial instability, being targeted by a targeted individual program, or anything else, there is nobody to protect the children. We all must stand to protect these adults, the very protectors of the children, because we are the line of defense for the children. If we are wiped out, they have easy access and it's all over for the children. That was only a couple of things. There are no coincidences is my page. If you would like, you can go there and review a whole lot more. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And for the codes in reference to daughter. So, as we see, we look at this. Ain't it funny how truth gets banned? That ain't gets me. This is my account that I had, my first account that I had on Twitter. And I put to @RealDonaldTrump and Nancy May, because I just was tweeting under one of his tweets. 3:31 p.m., 6/11/20. What about your own unknown daughter? What about helping her and actually, keyword here, acknowledging her? Does my life matter at all? Can someone do what's right? Okay. So we're going to go to the next one. This is actually from his account, but I couldn't fit the whole thing in one, so I'll show you the top in a second in one picture. So at 3:53 p.m., 6/11/20, he puts Daughters of the Heartland. So let's just go back and see that again. So 3:31, 6/11. 6/11 was the same day. 3:31 prior to that, keyword daughter and acknowledging to @RealDonaldTrump. And you have Daughter of the Heartland, right? 3:53. So that was right after I tweeted that to him. Okay, let's move on though. So approve. Here's the, there's this picture. Boom, boom, boom. Donald Trump. Oops. Donald Trump, Daughters of the Heartland. So you could see it was his. Daughter of the Heartland. Okay, and talking about inspiration for women and her books and all that kind of stuff. Okay, now let's go to Q. Let's go to Q. So remember, this was June 11th of 20 that this happened. And now we're going to go to my birthday, which is July 19th of 2020. So on June 11th, I asked him to acknowledge his unknown daughter, asked him if my life mattered. And his very next tweet was Daughters of the Heartland. On July 19th, which is my birthday, what do we have here? Acknowledged. God bless America. Q. So just to show you how they work, if Q has taught people that timestamps and deltas and different things, non-coincidences go on between the @RealDonaldTrump Twitter account when he had that NQ, the Q board, okay? And it was teaching people to look at certain things, look at language, look at codes they're using, look at all these different things. I'm only doing the same thing, and I'm only doing what everybody else is doing concerning coding, and I'm only doing what was taught to the majority of people that are in, the Q community to look for certain things and be observant. So when I put acknowledge your daughter at 3:31, and he puts at 3:53, Daughters of the Heartland, and Q posts on my birthday, acknowledged. Is that another coincidence? Just saying. This is only one of the many other posts that I have too in reference to acknowledging your daughter to Donald Trump. Thank you.